they usually neglect the. So sorry, I am audible.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Nikhil requested that I should start the stream. So
Okay, okay, sir.
yeah, just a test run. We'll do it. So Sharanya, if you want to check out the YouTube, that will be open by now. Mohammed, please go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, okay. Then there was a word used, pedant. Pedant, one who is very particular about small details. So this kind of people, usually they want a solitude for their work, so that they can bring out their means they can put out their whole focus into their work. So yeah, they are quite, as I saw this Isak being very rude even to his son, who I think he has given a loan, and due to that, the son and daughter-in-law were struggling uh, to pay back, and he is very particular. He has some principles, and he also expects others to be follow their own principle of independence. Be independent when you have taken something. Respect the promise you have made. So these people, especially science, those who are working in science, I don't know about the artists like poets, how they are with their family, because I haven't seen any movie or any I haven't read. I read this Richard Feynman, physicist, Nobel laureate. His life, I felt he was very passionate about with his wife. His first wife died due to cancer. I think he again remarried actress. I think if sorry, I am not sure about that. It's a long time ago I read about that. So these people usually, I feel their work demands that kind of solitude. And yeah, what's the price for success or the excellence? There is a price, and if you want to excel in that field, then there are certain necessary sacrifices of human bond. I felt through this movie, but that doesn't apply to all. There are people who are married and who are living a happy life. Still, they have been able to contribute in different domains. So, just your thoughts, like if they are genius, what should be their social status or social relationships? So, anything from your side?
Yeah, 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 you raise a good point, and that's one thing I also observed, that uh, the cost of professional excellence can be your personal life, and there's a clue of this in the movie, right? And his fiance Sarah, she ends up choosing another guy who lives a more exciting, more um, how do I say this? Um, I'm missing the word, but he lives a more you know less pragmatic and planned and put together life. He more it's the word for an instant, like. So anyways, whereas Isaac is more by the book, and he's basically a good boy, does everything right and is nice to everyone, but in her eyes he's boring. So uh,
Yeah, even I disliked what to say, the criteria for being a charming macho man. I didn't like that. Means she had her own criteria for a good partner, but
hmm,
usually even women they prefer, like in his book Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. He mentioned very specifically a woman, a female. When they want to find a what to say, a partner, they see the resource, whether they will be able to provide uh, for living, where the offspring will be well brought up. So they see this kind of criteria. But usually what I have seen in this movie, she wants a person who is more jovial, more charming, more what to say, more Krishna kind of thing. Krishna, So I don't know, but a person who is very well into his own work, who is devoting his time, uh, focus, and I don't know, but her choice was that. So I didn't like that. There are people who are devoted to their profession. Still, they can provide. They may not be so romantic. They may not praise or engage them with romantic songs or romantic uh, gesture, but have they do have a place for them in their hearts. So that is what I felt.
So, Mohammed, one way to look at it is, instead of thinking that, this is how everyone behaves, you can also think of it as it's a personality mismatch, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
end, Sarah was more comfortable with spontaneous is the word. Someone who's more spontaneous and more adventurous. So that was her
Mm-hmm.
personality, and her personality aligned with the other guy.
Oh
And she
yeah.
came to that realization later. Doesn't mean Isak is a bad person or is a bad fiance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, you know, there is some disconnect that was
Mm-hmm.
identified later on in the relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, Isak,
Mm-hmm.
uh, had to pay the cost of that.
Even that girl in the car, she's in dilemma whether which one is the perfect one. Could you give some light on that also? What that girl, what she's expecting uh, in the car? I think you are saying.
Uh, Sorry, Mohammed, I was typing. Could you repeat what you asked?
Uh, you said it is perspective, personality perspective.
Hmm.
So similarly, that girl in the car, when she was asked, whom do you prefer among
Hmm.
the both, she is in again she is unsure
Yeah.
whom to choose, because she likes certain things in one person, and there are certain other things which she likes in other person. So so it was little comedy to me, because a person can't be a perfect, that you will have a physique, you a good physicality, you will have a brain with a beauty. It's rare combination. So
Yeah.
that was little funny.
Yeah, but Mohammed, if you see, they are literally teenagers in the film,
Mm,
right? They're
yeah.
high school or first year of college, that those age 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, the reason she's not able to choose is because her personality itself is in a formative stage. She's
Mm-hmm.
deciding what kind of person she wants to be in the future. And once she finds that answer, maybe she can find the right person who syncs with her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it
So
wasn't.
you're talking about the hitchhiker, right?
Yeah, the three hitchhikers.
Yeah.
So Mohammed was asking, why is that girl wasn't able to pick one or the other guy, and
Mm-hmm.
she had preferences for both. And yeah, I think that's because she herself is growing and learning to be the person she wants to be. And once
Mm-hmm.
you have that answer, it becomes easier to
Then
find.
Vivek, then
Uh,
means when
can
do
I
you
can I
means
try and sorry,
sure.
Bharat?
Yeah.
So this question makes a lot of sense. I have not seen the film for probably 7 8 years, so I'm going to try and attempt an answer. I might be totally wrong. So I think one of them is some sort of into science, and the other talks about religion. Is it? So it's there are two sides to. There is always a fight between science and religion, and you don't know what to choose because you don't know the right way, right path. So that might be one of the reasons why these two characters have been chosen. These
Yeah,
two,
Vishnu, that's a beautiful observation. I
And
didn't
she
yeah.
think.
also gives a hint that I like everything about this guy, but how can he believe in God?
So
Yeah, yeah.
so that might be one of the reasons, but I might be totally wrong because I have not seen the film for years. But that usually when you have to choose in cinema, when you have to choose between two people or two things, it's great films will always have some sort of symbolism. So that might be one of the reasons.
We have a message from Nikhil in the chat. He says he disagrees with the cost of professional excellence. He's seen a lot of physicists with happy marriage and a blossom career. Okay.
I don't disagree with what he's saying, but I also don't agree with what he's saying. I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
again, this is just a very general answer. I'm not talking about the film because I've not seen the film for a long time. There is always a cost for excellence. Forget professional, any sort of excellence, you will always face a cost. So um, maybe we don't have to take everything literally. And I definitely do not believe that there is no cost to excellence. That doesn't make sense to me. That's again a personal philosophical choice, you can say. But I don't believe there is no cost to excellence. Maybe the film stereotypes, as Anandita said, that is totally possible. But we have to also see it from the point of view when the film was made. The film, I would say, was far ahead of its times. Maybe today it feels dated. Uh, but if you think about what the film was doing back then, I mean, it's quite spectacular. So that is my take on it.
I just wanted to mention the regarding the people pursuing excellence, or particularly academicians. I've been in academia for the last, say, 3 years, little over 3 years, and I've seen an overwhelming number of cases where they have compromised on their family life. Like, in fact, to be honest, their wives hate them, and several cases of divorce and things like this. So, unfortunately, I've had the opposite experience. Maybe
I have
Mohammed, you
seen
can
enough.
also
Yes,
give
I
it.
agree with.
Yeah, Mohammed is in academia too, right? I'm curious to see his opinion on that matter.
Yeah, actually, I don't stay with my because I feel uh, I can do better when I'm alone and have my mind to it. Because your normal conversation, like what did you have, what the in-laws, what the granny is doing, what sister is doing, these all talks usually burden. It's a burdensome to me actually. So I prefer just not to call them, not to, because once dwelling into a topic, it requires certain focus, certain uh, demand for contemplation. For that, I prefer solitude usually. And I have felt this one last year. Actually, I did this one. I decided to just cut off from everybody and study books because I wanted to improve my and get knowledge of books, English language. So I went into it, and I think I did uh, better because I was able to appreciate any article, any book, any movie. I was very into that world. When we have to detach ourselves from the reality to experience a different world. For that, I think we need a certain sacrifices. That's my take on. I feel that I can do better justice to anything, like learning, doing things, craft, uh, even any this lot of artists I have seen. They have devoted a separate time, a separate even space, environment. They have preferred to go to certain place and devote their time. So yeah, uh, solitude will definitely aid. It will help. It's a helping hand in our excellence.
I have to say, Mohammed, like you made so many excellent points. Like that was a I mean, very poignant way of putting everything. Like you made a lot of sense.
Mm. Thank you, Vishal.
Great, actually.
Yeah, great job, Mohammed. Even in the chat, we've got a comment saying excellent point. So um, I wanted to bring up the dream sequences because there are quite a few, and uh, it's in relation to the mental health or mental wellness theme, which I think Anandita was trying to compare. And if you think about it from an overall macro perspective, every dream that he has is a nightmare, at least in the beginning, right? First, he has this surreal dream. Then he has, I may forget the order of things, but he has the dream where his fiance leaves him. Then he has the dream where he's been invited for an examination and he fails it really poorly. Then he has a dream where his wife is being assaulted, and uh, yeah, and she makes a speech about how she's not satisfied with her husband. So it's one after the other. It's all bad dreams, and towards the end, that's the only good dream he has, and that's when he makes a conscious decision that, you know what, I'm gonna try to dream of a nice thing, and then I'm gonna go to sleep. So there's obviously multiple ways of looking at it, because he's changed as a person just a little bit. He's remedied some of his relationships with the housekeeper, the son, and the daughter-in-law. Um, so that definitely makes a difference. But this whole concept of mindfulness, right? Like appreciating what you have, and uh, being thankful and being grateful for what you already have, and uh, being in the present moment. I think this somewhat relates to that. That if you find time to appreciate things in your life, your overall uh, mood swings towards the positive. So during the lockdown, and during it, and all the tragedy we have in the country, it's very easy to be pessimistic, and it's very easy to be cynical. And that's one of the reason I try to avoid reading the news as much as possible, because the news will always try to sell you negative news. It sells more clicks and it sells more papers. So it's a business decision for them to make things sound uh, very apocalyptic, and I don't want that in my life. So I try to avoid it. And yeah, this is what I noticed with the pattern of the dreams, that he became a more mindful, more present, and more appreciative person. And yeah, and any thoughts on, if anyone saw something similar, or any thoughts
So
on? Yeah, Samartha, please go
yeah,
ahead.
before the pattern of the dreams, I was kind of interested in the way the dreams were set up, the structure. Like first he is kind of like a passive observer in the dreams, and then as you go ahead, you seem to, some of the characters in the dreams are interacting with him, right? So I was first thrown off a little bit by that, because in the different timelines and whatever, there's a flashback and all this stuff happening in the dream. So, do you think there was a reason the director layered the dreams in that fashion, where it went from him being more passively involved in the dreams to other characters in the dreams interacting with him? Do you think
the
there was a reason to that?
the characters in the dream always interact with him from the very first dream. In the first dream, you have the man who balloon faced man who falls down, and he gets the clock from him. Then he sees a dead version of himself, which also interacts with him. Then his fiance also interacts with him in the dream, and the university professor also interacts with him. So yeah, everyone constantly interacts with him in
But
the
if,
dream.
yeah, I found the examination one dream to be, to be a standout. The way it was structured, I think for me personally, it did more than any of the other dreams in the entire film.
Nikhil is making a point via the chat. He's asking that I wanted to know the discussion's emotion towards the dreams being an insight into the character's hidden desires. What do you guys think of it? Wait, the dreams as the character's desire? Huh. I can't connect the
That is
university.
psychoanalysis. Nikhil is indulging in psychoanalysis.
Yeah, he mentioned psychoanalysis
It's very
further
interesting,
up.
by the way, and it's quite an interesting topic to go into.
I think the first dream, if I'm correct, there he sees a dead body, his own dead body. So that's an indication of his coming dead. Means it's a call that you are going to die. So it was symbolic. I felt one, and then from then onwards, he started to reflect. Oh, so he took that car. So that was a triggering point to for him to introspect on his life incidents, what he has done, what he has lost. I think before that also, the when the movie begins, he's telling what kind of person he is, how he spends his time, and but the first dreams scene was actually that was the time when he started to okay, I'll take a car, I'll means I will reflect back on my past, what good or what bad I have done. So was was that or am I deviating from what actually the director was intending to tell from the first dream?
Okay. Vishal, do you have something to add to that, or
As I
maybe?
said, I have not seen the film for a long time, but
Yeah.
it feels. Mohammed was absolutely right, and I also agree with Sharanya. Absolutely right. Like both those sequences are standout for me, but I think they are also standout because the not the last dream, but the pseudo courtroom sequence is something which had to have the most effect in the film because that is in a form everything is coming together at that point. And the first one is like your entry to this a portal, right? You enter into a new world because it's not like he's dreamt something or has a nightmare for the first time, but something which is going to lead to some sort of catharsis. So that's, I think, part of the style of the film. But even if you look at the dreams, again, sorry, I might be wrong, but even if you look at the dreams, it also it's like a parallel film in itself. It uh, it it has all the I would say rhythms of opening, middle, and an end. So that is that's my take on it. I can't really comment anything else. I've not seen it for a long time.
So Vivek, I have a question for you.
Yes,
The
please.
only two films I've seen of Bergman are the ones that have been screened here. And I
Hmm.
forget the other one, these stories and this
Waiting
one.
woman. Yeah.
Yeah, is Bergman famous for the way he deals with dreams? Is that one of his hallmark things?
Oh, Vishal, do you want to take that? I've seen a few
I will.
Bergmans, but through a very long period of time. So
I'm with Vivek that way.
yeah,
I have enjoyed Bergman, but
yeah.
to say Bergman has this masters, the way masters love. We talk about masters loving Satyajit Ray. That's how masters love Bergman. In fact, if I am not wrong, there is a book on Bergman or something that is written by either it's a introduction or a book written by Woody Allen, and he called him the psychologist, and uh, that's the kind of reverence that he has had in even amongst masters. But I have to say, like, I don't really have this very concrete take on him because I have seen him over a period of time and in bits and pieces. I have not really seen his films, like, not really explored him. Can't really comment that way. Yeah, I am actually more. I have this belief that, and it's not only for him, but my belief is Bergman would not be that great if he did not work with Sven Nykvist, who made most of his masterpieces as a cinematographer. That is true for many other filmmakers, but I just felt like I enjoyed films shot by Sven Nykvist much more than the ones that were not shot by him. So I find I that is the only reason that I do not really enjoy Bergman that much as I do enjoy others. But I mean, there is no doubt he's made masterpieces. No doubt, like Persona, definitely. There are quite a
So
few.
what aspect of sorry to dive this a little bit, but what aspect of Sven Nykvist's work in cinematography wise do you like in Bergman films?
So as I said, I've not explored him, but so I do remember being. I think nobody takes close-ups like the way Nyquist does, especially in black and white. I don't think anybody has ever taken close-ups like he does. And images are very evocative, very evocative, and it feels very. I think I also feel I am being very unfair to Bergman, but I have realized I only got this feeling for Bergman, not for other filmmakers. But that is one thing is also possible that I saw it when I did not really understand Bergman. Not that I would see him and understand today, but I had seen his films long time back. But I do remember the images being, I feeling that these images are really powerful. They're really evocative. So it might feel like a slight on Bergman, but there is no doubt that Sven Nykvist was a hugely integral part. I think hugely, though Wild Strawberries is not shot by Sven Nykvist, but Nykvist was hugely integral in Bergman becoming the master that he is. Yeah.
Okay.
I can speak for Wild Strawberries because the memory is still fresh in my mind. If you notice, in terms of cinematography, there's three types of lighting being used in the film. In the first dream sequence, where it's basically a surreal dream sequence, and maybe you guys already know this, but the actor who plays what's his name? I forgot his name already. Isaac.
Isaac.
Isaac. Yeah.
Actor will place, as in you're talking the name of the character or the actor?
Character. So that character is played by the director of The Phantom Carriage, which is a famous horror classic from Sweden from the 1920s. So when you see that horse carriage pass by, it might have been a reference
Oh, yes.
to
Possible.
him.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and also that in terms of cinematography, that entire scene is heavily overexposed. There's almost no detail in the highlight throughout that sequence. It uses
I
a
yeah.
very harsh light. It's kind of difficult to look at. Then most of the film is shot with neutral sharp lenses. Then when you go into dreams, that's when uh, you have very softer light and softer lenses. There's a certain glow to the images in the dream sequences. So that's the cinematography trick that they're using for this film. Then, oh, we have a message from Nikhil in the chat. He says, yes, he does treat dreams in that manner. So, Samantha, he's answering your question. And okay.
Okay.
So, like Vivek said, right? If I'm not wrong, to support my previous theory that the film, the dreams are also have the rhythms of a start, middle, and end. So the cinematography, uh, like the harsh lightings, do they change throughout do they differ during the other dreams? I think they do. So probably they also have some sort of, the lighting also has some sort of journey which will affect the mood of every dream.
It does, it does. So, harsh lighting is only for dream number one, which is, the surreal
Correct.
dream with no hands on the clock. Then, when he dreams about his youth with his fiance, it's a very soft, glowy kind of light. Then, when he goes to the university, it's very dark, mostly dark images. And when you go into the sexual assault scene, it's very low contrast, very dull looking images. Characters are wearing dark clothes. So yeah, that's probably the most darkest dream, so it's treated as such.
Regarding this Christian influences, so Bergman, I think he renounced religion, but he grew up in such a Orthodox family. I think he just could not. That's what I've heard. He could not shake off his conditioning. So that's why this clash between religion and rationality in his films.
So I have a point I want to bring up for everyone to discuss. is that, okay, we understand that this character is not exactly amiable in his personal life, that people who know him very closely detest him to some or the other degree, whether it's the housekeeper or the daughter-in-law or the son. Uh, they all have a certain amount of disdain for him. Now, we also know that he can be short-tempered in certain ways, and he can be a little self-serving in certain ways. But even his wife was dissatisfied with him. If you remember the dialogues from the dream, so beyond these little issues, do you think there was something else that was going on with him that is causing everybody to shy away from him, whether it's fiance or wife or son or daughter-in-law? Everybody is turning their backs towards him. Is there something going on, or is he simply misunderstood and he's not good at communicating and not good at sharing the things, emotions about things which are important to him? Any idea why people turn away from him? Nikhil is asking me to repeat the question. So, Nikhil, I was saying that we know that people in his personal life dislike him, but beyond the little issues that he's short-tempered and all these things, is there something else which is fundamentally not working, or that people dislike him, or is he misunderstood as a character? Because if you think about it, his fiance, his wife, his son, daughter-in-law, everybody uh, don't really like him, to be honest. So why could that be?
Vivek, I have seen this character type.
Yeah.
Personally, I've known people, and I
Hmm.
could connect very well because when I compared it to those cases, why people, the interesting thing that you keep bringing up, because an aspect of his character is that people in the closest proximity to him, who spend most time with him,
Hmm.
are the ones who dislike him the most, right? And
Hmm.
I think that's because they, and I think it stems from his selfishness, self-centered attitude. This is a guy who has made their decisions in his entire life, mostly only thinking about himself, not much about what repercussions it may have on others or the feelings others may have. I feel it stems from that, and I've personally seen characters like this in real life more than one. So it was almost like eerie,
Hmm.
I think it's definitely possible such people do exist, and I think it stems from their self-centeredness that causes the hatred.
I was thinking, again, with the dedication towards professional life, that might have affected how strong his relationships are. Right? Wife doesn't get
Definitely.
the time. She Hold on, there's something wrong. Samartha, I think your mic is a little disturbed. There's something off. So, yeah, he may not have a strong relationship with his wife because of that. His son may have grown without a good
But
father figure.
I think he didn't do it intentionally. There was no deliberation in avoiding people. Uh,
Hmm.
but I think unconsciously he was prioritizing his own needs over others' feelings and presence. That could
Right.
be said. But I felt that he was unconscious what he was doing. But at the end of his life, then I think he started to realize that what he has done, whether he's the people in his proximity, are they satisfied? Are they happy? And how do they regard him? Uh, yeah, I think yeah. Ultimately, he was unconscious what he was doing.
Right. I think so too. I don't think he's a bad person.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah, not yeah.
short tempered and all these things, everyone has character quirks. and none of us are perfect. We all have some things which annoy others. So it may be those things, but I don't think he uh, was a bad father or a bad person in general. Because if you think about it, his daughter-in-law is upset with him because her husband is stressed about the loan, some money affair, and he's saying that I know that he doesn't need to pay me. I don't want the money, but I still want him to pay because he has made a promise. And it is my job to teach him the value of a promise. So for him, it's not about the money. He can easily, take away that financial stress away from his son. But he wants his son to learn a life lesson that if you make a promise to someone, you have to live by it, and you have to, uh, you know, uh, deliver on your promise.
Yeah.
Even if it causes you stress, you can't back away from that. So
Mm.
I think after that,
It is like more. It was more to. Sorry. I think he was more to. He was valuing the principles more than human affection.
right. So which his daughter-in-law came to understand later on, that it's this guy is not selfish about money. He's not greedy about money. Uh, it's a father and son thing, and I shouldn't be trying to resolve this privately. So yeah, I think he was misunderstood on many different levels. So wait a second, Nikhil has something to say. I don't think so. Well, Nikhil says his choices seem very conscious. His holier than thou attitude was not well calculated when he had the opportunity. Now he seems to be a man living off regret. Moral imperatives are okay on fiction. We tend to worry.
Also, I
Okay.
think my belief is, if I'm not wrong, he's never portrayed as a negative person. Negative as in, if you look at a negative, is a villain. So he doesn't ever come off as a villainous character. But the fact that he has to go through this introspection, and the director decides that there is this character, and I am going to show something through the introspection that he does it with his life, or the little that has left of his life, clearly shows that he's questioned his choices. He realizes that his choices were not optimal. Maybe he had to make those choices to become somebody who's associated with excellence, because in the end I think he does stand in some sort of a parade, right, where he's applauded even by this girl who comes along with these two men, if I'm not wrong. So clearly everything is not kosher. So I think he was not a bad human, but he did make choices which uh, maybe questionable is not the right way, but probably he made choices which he was not okay with at the end of his life. Because as Limp Bizkit says, you learn life is a lesson that you learn when it's through. So probably at the end of his life he realizes, okay, maybe I did not make all the optimum decisions, so I need to introspect.
Vishal, I have a question. Like, what do we owe to our family members? Like, what kind of duty as a human being we owe to our family?
It's a very good question, and I think it's a question which does not have the right answer. Because when, as I said, I am of the firm belief that you have to make sacrifices if you are uh, if you run behind excellence, if you want to be somebody. For example, I have always believed that uh, what's his name, uh, Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick, if I'm not wrong, he lived a life. He lived away from the world. He had no real connections with the world except for making films. You need that single-minded devotion towards anything that you do, and it will cost you something. So when you talk about what do you owe to your family, it's, for me, the answer lies in the fact that at the end of the day, what are you ready to accept? Whom are you ready to disappoint? Because you are going to disappoint people. If you do not want to please your family, which might not be right, which might not be wrong, that's not the question. But you might disappoint people, and it's only about how much how much disappointment that you dish out are you okay with? So it's again a personal thing. I don't think there is an universal answer. Spiritually, I think you don't
Mm-hmm.
owe anything to anybody because
Yeah.
everybody lives their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for that reply. Thanks.
That's actually quite a nuanced and calibrated approach, Vishal. Nicely done.
Thanks.
So Nikhil is saying the son is shown as a villain because he's not keeping with his promise. It is also
I
important to
agree with
consider
Nikhil's personal opinion, by the way.
he's not shown as a villain. He's never shown as a villain. He's shown as someone who's struggling with finances, and that is stressing him out, and that is, ruining his personal peace. He's not a villain in any circumstance. In fact, even with the whole issue about the child and the pregnancy and all these things, it's completely understandable that someone who was not prepared to have a child is suddenly burdened with the responsibility of fatherhood. It, I mean, yeah, I can understand why he's put away by this proposition, especially since he wasn't given a choice in the matter. Like, you are going to be a father whether you like it or not, and this is the way forward. And he panicked over there. I don't see him as a villain in any circumstances. Completely understandable that he has the reaction which he has, is that I don't want to be a father, and you have to choose whether. Uh, I mean, I don't agree with ultimatums, but I can understand the volatile emotions he might have been going through at that moment. So yeah, don't think Sun was a villain in any scene.
Sorry, but to add to Mohammed's question, like what do you owe to do your family members? Though I gave you this answer, but I do believe you owe something to your kids. So that might be helpful in the terms we judge wild strawberries or analyze wild strawberries, but not all your life, just up to a point, because you chose to have them. They did not choose to come here. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you do owe your children, but not all their lives. Up to a point, you do.
Yeah,
The
actually.
problem
Mhm.
is they expect you. Parents consider the fact that they brought you up as some sort of a loan, which you have to repay when you grow up, but you never asked for that loan.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is my only take on what do you owe to anyone in terms.
Definitely. To some extent, I agree because we have brought up by them, and yeah, there is some, what to say, moral responsibility that at least we should be in their hard days, like old age. But the concept in our Indian system, that family system, that Westerns are very particular, that okay, if you are above 18, you can go and earn and you can settle, like in foreign countries, Western countries. But in India, they make sure that uh, the people make sure that their children are married, settled, and they will also rear, or they will also care for the grandchildren and even great grandchildren's. uh, but I found this in but we Indians are very, what to say, very particular about our family lineage, or the and the lineup. Where, but I don't think Western people cared that much. After one child or two child, they go on to explore their middle age, old age. uh, in Western, I think so, I don't know, but I feel in India it is very degrading, that you should sacrifice your all middle age, old age for your children's sake. Because I've seen people, if a lady is pregnant, she will go to her maternal home for delivery. She will spend her time there, and that's not bad thing. I'm not saying this anything wrong in that. It's our culture, and it's also good. But what I feel is, these old people, they sacrifice their all time in just keeping, as if they are a housekeepers, looking after the kids, washing them, cleaning their shit, and all doing. They may enjoy it, but I feel they could do better justice to their time, rather than just going on being as a नौकर के जैसे देख लेते हैं उनको. That's I feel very bad about our Indian system.
But the problem is not that they become old and then they live a kind of life. The problem is they do that what they do in their the twilight of their years is because of the conditioning that they had while growing up and the world that they saw. So the problem is with the system. And the problem of not problem, because I don't say something is wrong or right. It's again, I mean, it's another conversation. But the thing is that it's a matter of propagation. There is a system. You propagate that system because you feel comfortable in that system. We are always scared of things that we do not know. You do not want to go inside a cave because you don't know what's there on the other side. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you might strike gold or you might asphyxiate. You do not
Fear of unknown.
Correct. So that is why there is a system. It works. There is a society which propagates in a particular way, and there is a comfort level because you know what's going to happen. So that is where the problem lies. It's what I feel.
Now, this might be slightly off topic, but I have a take on why the Indian society is formed in the structure it has. It's because we don't have a social security net as such. For example, let's say if I was 18, 19 years old, I moved out of my parents' home, I got a job, and I was, paying my own rent with my own salary and so on. Suddenly I lose the job. I have no unemployment benefits. I cannot claim um, any benefits from the government to help me pay my rent until the time I find a new job, which you have in other countries, especially in Europe and the US, that you get unemployment checks from the government, a smaller amount, not the full amount, a smaller amount based on your taxes and all these things. That will help you at least pay your taxes and buy food. It is only for that. And in India, we don't have that. As soon as your job is cancelled or job is cut out, you are responsible for your own expenses. So what happens is, since we don't have that social security net to protect us, we end up, being closer to our families. Younger people, they save money on rent by living with family, or older people, for example, older people also see their sons and daughters as retirement funds. Whether you like it or not, this is the truth, that they expect after a certain age, they don't get retirement benefits from the government. They depend on their sons and daughters to make sure their living expenses are met. So a lot of people have children for their own safety in the senior years, because let's say if I don't have a kid and I turn 75, I have no one who will look after me, and all my immediate family members will be long gone by then. So what becomes of someone like me? So that's the reason a lot of people end up having kids, out of that social fear. And the since our government is not so active, uh, it becomes a family responsibility. But again, it's slightly off topic. I just wanted to share and thought about this.
No, that is.
Yeah, that was a good, apt insight. Yeah.
But it also, like, you have to, if you track sociologically, I might be wrong, but the different movements that came about in the Western world, they were responsible for this sort of system that is in place there, because there is a thrust towards individualism and respect towards every human being, towards human life, which is not which the Indian government tried to when we got independence, but the Western world had already imbibed those values. So there are a lot of threads to this conversation, so probably we are going off topic, as you rightly said. So yeah, I think we should get back to the film.
Nikhil had some interesting points about parenthood. Do you guys want to discuss it?
Sounds a very loaded question.
I saw it in the chat. I'd missed it earlier, so I was just wondering if that had been discussed already.
We discussed until the son is not a villain until that point. After that, I haven't been checking. But I mean, I saw the message, but I didn't read because I was busy listening and doing something else on the side.
Just I was thinking, what if a monk in his old age, how would he be feeling? Like he will never expect anybody to be with him. Even some monks don't expect any disciples to serve them in the old age. So this character, if we replace this character with a person like a monk's attitude, that he doesn't care, he doesn't regret the past, he doesn't care if his son or the daughter or anybody will be a what to say uh, uh, old age returns as kind of thing. Yes. He's a human being, sure, he's living a social life. What if a man who is completely detached from the society, he will never expect it. He'll be happy to, yeah, I'll, like Sherlock Holmes character. I'm just bringing the Sherlock Holmes. He that character is very. I liked Sherlock Holmes. He doesn't expect anything from anybody. He's all happy to just do his job. He's happy whenever he gets a case. He's happy to work on it. Uh, so I have not seen him Sherlock Holmes in his old age. It's how he thought about the world. But what if a person I don't know whether I'm able to put the question in a right perspective or right wording. Sorry.
In mostly they either go to an old age home or a hospice. A hospice, if maybe you know or maybe you don't, it's basically like an old age home where people know that they are going to die in the next few weeks. So they try to make it as comfortable as possible, and it's a
But
grim reality, but it's
yeah,
true.
in terms of the feelings, right? I think Mohammed also wanted to understand, correct me if I'm wrong, what kind of feelings the monk would undergo if he were in the shoes of the character that you like, Isaac, right? So I was just thinking it's an interesting question, but my thought on that is somebody like a monk has detached himself from humanity a long time ago, from whenever they started that. So if you're thinking of somebody who has done a whole profession or spent a good chunk of their life doing that, I think they are okay with being perhaps their only companion is God or nature or something like that. And I would actually tend to think in terms of feelings, they've already come to terms with who they are in terms of their environment and their interactions with their environment. So it would be because this guy, Isaac, still has quite a few people, despite all the issues they have with him. One thing that I notice is there is that love for him in the end, and some amount of humanity as well in the way they feel for him. So I don't look at him as somebody who's fully, completely detached from society at the end of the day.
Hmm. Mm,
They have a lot of love for.
I'm sorry, Vishal, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, you said they have a lot of love for somebody. Like I
No,
missed
I
out.
didn't say a
Missed
lot
out
of
the
love
word.
for. I said they have some love for. Like what I was saying was, at the end of the film, despite all the issues Isaac's close circle has with him, there is still some amount of love and humanity left for him. So I don't see him as being completely abandoned by his inner circle.
Okay.
Although to be fair, it's not a lot, but there is a little bit left over there.
I remembered one small detail from the film that when they're heading out, I think his daughter-in-law asked, do you think it's going to rain today? And he said, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a storm. Then they drive out. It's completely sunny. There's no clouds, nothing. It's quite bright and sunny. But then it does get dark and it does get stormy and it does end up raining. And I thought it was a nice tie-in to the simmering tension between the father and the daughter-in-law. The storm implying, like, do you think we'll finally understand why we have this problem between us? And his answer was yes, that I think by the end of it, it will come to that. And if you notice, the storm happens when she narrates her story, that this is the situation I had with your son, and I informed that I'm pregnant, and he walked away out of the relationship. And so, and in that story, it's also raining. So noticed a small detail which ties into the rest of the story. Are there any other points that we should be discussing? If not, we can wrap up the discussion.
So Nikhil had brought up one point in the chat, which is
Oh yeah, let me
Bergman
see.
he tends to work with frequently with the same cast and perhaps crew as well. So you wanted to run that around the table and see people's opinions on that, like if there's any reason for it and so on.
A lot of directors do that, but that's a
Yeah.
matter of personal preference, I guess. What kind of gel they have with the actors, whether they understand each other's languages and so on, especially for crew.
Yeah.
Your crew needs to understand your vision as much as you do, and some people get it
Also,
more
for
accurately than
example,
others.
Anurag Kashyap, for example, he brought in um, uh, Nawazuddin Siddiqui. He was a nobody. Anurag Kashyap made a star out of him. So when you're making an offbeat film and you have a set of people and you have already shown that this works, so that becomes an easier sell also. That is one way of looking at it. But it has got nothing to do with excellence, I would say. It's got to do with the fact that you know these people are going to deliver. They know the kind of work that you do. So I think it's more a matter of comfort, and it's getting this gel of people. So I think that's the biggest reason behind it.
And I think Mr. Adur and even Mr. Kasarvalli both, said the same thing, which is they prefer to work with, what Vivek mentioned about having a crew that understands you. One of them, I can't remember, it was somebody who said, maybe it's somebody I read in an interview, he said when he directs with the cinematographer he has worked with for 20 movies, he can just look at him at a set and he would know exactly what's going on in his mind. It's almost that good, the communication. So if it is, if it's that good, I think it's also at a practical level, right? Because if you're say on a tight budget or I mean, even if you have a decent budget, I would imagine a film set is always under massive pressure. So if you have people who understand you, who can work effortlessly with you, it has given it a practical standpoint. I think it should be very helpful. I think some other filmmakers in this forum can shed light on that as well. I guess.
In terms of cinematography, there is something that I can say is so. For example, I do not know whether you've seen Angamali Diaries. I mean, the films by LJP, the Malayalam films by LJP. So he did Angamali Diaries and Jallikattu with this guy called Girish Gangadharan. But apparently, his other films just don't work that well. Girish's other films don't really land that well. So clearly there is a reason behind this. There are these two people who have somehow gelled, and they're giving you these fantastic results, and you do not have to spend time creating that relationship with others. So even somebody like, I am giving, I might be, uh, what's the word for it? Anyway, I'm not getting the word for it. So Wonker Wai, he was working with Christopher Doyle. And at some point he decided Christopher Doyle just couldn't take what Wonker Wai was doing. And he decided to work with somebody else.
Yeah.
But the vision did not change. So it's not a thing about vision. If you have great vision, it is not really going to change. But then, you do not have to invest time in creating a relationship. For example, the guy that I work with, uh, he's not, so he will push himself the extra mile for me. I do not know whether he'll do that for somebody else because I have that relationship with him. So it's always, not always, but there is this thing about ease of working. Because when you start out, for example, you are fighting many battles. So once you have won that battle of creating this team of people that you want to work with, why would you want to fight that battle again?
Fair, yeah. I see where you're coming from. So would you agree that it makes it more practical as well, apart from the?
Yes, I think it's less challenging but more practical.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we can do closing thoughts on the film and then we can wrap up. So, overall, as a summary, I would say it's a decent film, and in fact, the segments of the films are brilliant. But overall, as a film, I thought it was a little floaty in the sense that it didn't have a steady narrative as such. Now, I understand this is semi-autobiographical or semi based on personal experiences for the director, so he's not too concerned about structure as much as he is about covering those events from his life. But at the same time, I thought that was the weakness, that this whole format of driving, going to a dream, driving, meeting someone new, then going to a dream, so it was a little broken up for me. But overall, in terms of content, what the movie has to talk about, how the characters are portrayed, and what the relationships are, and the overall development of all the threads of the film coming to a conclusive end, I thought it was all very good. But I would say it's a decent film, but not Bergman's best. Even though it's considered a classic, I don't think it's his best.
I just wanted to. I had a thought on the closing note. Something I noticed between Wild Strawberries and the previous one, the women. I keep forgetting the title. They feel like they've been written for the stage. Like I feel like almost like I'm looking at a movie that has been that like they're filming a theatrical play almost. So either I don't know if that's coming from maybe Bergman's past in theater or I don't know the way the script is written. Any thoughts on that?
Could you clarify what do you mean?
I just feel like, for example, if you look at Wild Strawberries, right? It felt like the script has been written for the stage prior to, like it would be a great theatrical play. So, and it has been layered in that fashion. So with the
And I
dream.
see the fact that he was um, he lived in both worlds. He made films, but he was also a guy on the stage. So probably that's his grounding in writing for the stage. It's totally
Okay.
possible. I mean, I also feel the same. I also feel the same, but he has definite cinematic flourishes. There are other filmmakers who are very obviously, I mean, they would fit the stage more, but he has these
Yeah.
cinematic flourishes. So, but
Interesting. Yeah.
my feel, I don't think that this is an apt film for mental health. I never felt that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was wondering about that
In
as well.
fact, I would say other Bergman films would fit into the mental health thingy. Also, uh, as I said, no, it's not. It doesn't seem a great film now, but I do feel like it was way ahead of its time. So probably from that lens, um, the film is doing things which was not done, and probably it's also a format which is so easily copied that probably we've seen a lot of things similar to that. So in that way, it might not be what you say. I mean, an evergreen film, but it does definitely has images that you could say as greats in cinema, 100%.
I think it's aged quite gracefully compared to other films of that era. So yeah, it was definitely ahead of its time. And speaking about the mental wellness aspect, right? Last night when I saw it, I felt similarly that okay, I can see the struggles and the way he overcame things and all these things. Um, but I wonder how closely it follows the theme. Then this film stayed in my mind, and this afternoon again I was thinking about it, and the more I think of it, I think it does have a few things going for it under the surface. Uh, and I tried to bring some points up about those earlier in the call, and yeah, it's a very intimate character study, right? And if you think about it, all the characters are trying to figure out um, the ultimate question that what gives your life meaning. And this is a haunting thought that all of us struggle with, right, at multiple points of our lives. What is the meaning of your existence, and what purpose do you serve to not just yourself but to the greater good of society and your family and all these things? So this film tries to answer those questions on a very intimate level. And yeah, so for example, the daughter-in-law found meaning in motherhood. The what do you call this housekeeper lady, she's been there for some 40 plus years. That's not a job anymore. That is basically, she's like a member of the family. She's there because she wants to be, and she's quite old herself. So her meaning of life is helping others. And yeah, the son found meaning in life, that he reacted uh, on impulse, and then he realized that uh, the love he has for his wife and the companionship and the friendship that they have is worth more than all the dreary thoughts about existence that haunt him. And same for the main character, Isaac, right? He's an accomplished doctor and professional of his industry, very well respected in the neighborhood and all these things. But if he's not liked by his family, then what legacy is he leaving behind for his son and his grandson and all these people? Because you see a mirror of this with his mother, right? You go and meet the 100-year-old mother. She's Yeah, she's lived a long life, and she's got all the wealth. She's got boxes and boxes full of expensive, rare, collectible material, and she lives a in a giant house by herself. But nobody comes to visit her, and nobody wants to talk to her because people don't like her. And this is the first reaction the daughter-in-law has. She says, she reminds me so much of my husband, and I can see the correlation of personality being passed on generation by generation, and I don't want him to turn out this way. And that is also a wake up call for Isaac, that maybe she's got a point. Maybe I don't want to be this kind of person, and I am unknowingly this kind of person, and I need to be better about this. So yeah, this whole question about who you are and what purpose you serve and what gives your life meaning, that, I mean, that is incredibly connected to mental wellness. So yeah, and the other aspect I already spoke about earlier in the call. So yeah, this morning, the more I thought about it, the more it connected to the theme. All right, guys. So if we don't have any other points to be made, we can uh, call it an end for the discussion.
See you
Thanks for
guys.
everything.
Okay. Uh, yeah. If you guys have any other things to talk about besides the film, we can talk. Otherwise, we can meet again tomorrow.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, Samartha. See you. All right, Vishal. I'll see you tomorrow.